I don't agree with this. I think this is the most elegant and sophisticated tie knot because... So here we have the 4-in-hand knot and the Windsor knot to show you the difference on the same collar shape, the classic German street cutaway collar. If you're interested in learning how to tie these different knots, you'll find it on our YouTube channel. But what I'm here to talk about is aesthetically, what is the difference? Now, of course, we know the Windsor knot is a larger knot and it's symmetrical. The 4-in-hand is generally smaller and it's asymmetrical. Some people would like, I think fans of the Windsor knot prefer it because of the symmetry, but I also think there is a snobbery with people that can tie the Windsor knot because it's a more complicated knot. People associate it being more sophisticated because, again, the 4-in-hand knot for most people is the first tie knot they learn. It's the one we do in school and it's sometimes given the name, pejorative term of the schoolboy knot. I don't agree with this. I think this is the most elegant and sophisticated tie knot because of the fact it is asymmetrical. I much prefer smaller, neater knots. If I want a larger knot, I'll wear a thicker tie, which I believe is what the Duke of Windsor used to do as well, the one we named this tie knot for. So you may have heard, read, spoken about menswear rules. One particular one that comes up a lot is with cutaway collars, you wear the Windsor knot. The perceived wisdom is you want a bigger knot to fill the space and that smaller knots look lost. Totally disagree. Big fan of cutaway collars. They come and go out of fashion. I get bored of them sometimes and I really like them. 10 years ago I was in a position to actually make my own one. I was a senior creative in a brand doing shirt collections and we thought, me and my assistant said, let's just do a cutaway as cutaway as we can make it, just for the sake of it, see what it looks like. And this is what we came up with. We both loved it, we put it in the collection. But back then the whole concept was always to wear it with a 4-in-hand knot. The idea of wearing this with big tie knots would have just been not what we were doing it for. Neat, smart, asymmetrical 4-in-hand knots was the look. I like that combination of cutaway and the smaller knot, even with the wider lapel. To me, it's style. Plenty of other collars out there. This was never supposed to be a collar for everyone. This was part of a collection. We were sort of aiming at clothing connoisseurs. We're trying to do clothing for people that like clothing. So to me, it's a style statement. If I'm wearing a higher collar with a little bit of tie space, that's when I'm tempted sometimes to wear a Windsor knot, just to be controversial, and just to remind myself that I shouldn't wear them, and this is the tie knot you should be wearing, even with cutaway collars. Let's talk about dimples. That little fold of material beneath your tie knot, which I always have when I'm styling. It comes natural, regardless of the tie knot. The dimple to me is elegant. It makes a feature of the fabric. Here's a tie without a dimple. You wouldn't believe how difficult it was to do that. It's just taken us a few turns to try and get a tie without a dimple. The reason is, this is a tie we've used for previous shoots and we've tied a dimple in it. So what's happened is there's a memory in the interlining, which means it wants to dimple. And you'll often find a good quality tie, when you tie it, will naturally create folds in the center. So you have to be quite disciplined to push it out. This isn't bad. In the modern world, no one's going to hate you for doing this. But if you're always interested in buying good quality clothes and looking your best, I think you'll agree that the dimple is a good signifier. Should you overly worry about it if a tie doesn't have a dimple? No, I think it's not about that. It's about having a tie knot you like and you tie well, and naturally having a dimple. And some days you might even get a double dimple. Some days it might be a little bit off to one centre, but if it still looks good and looks like yourself, go with it. But I think deliberately not having a dimple, which is the thing, this to me, the overall aesthetic is a little bit fake. It almost looks like it's a clip-on tie. If you look at all tailoring, the art for me of good tailoring is taking something which is flat and making it three-dimensional. That's why I think beautiful suits have shape in the chest. They have a soft roll on the lapel. It's about the curves. Nothing's flat. Nothing is two-dimensional. And if you're wearing nice tailoring with shape, and you've got shape on the shoulders and you've got curves to the sleeve. Just consider the next time you wear a tie having that smarter dimple, and it's one of those things you'll start noticing. I think it's when you see someone who's well dressed, but you can't actually define what is it about that person that makes him smarter, and it's a small style signifiers like the dimple in the tie that you seem to sort of associate with the better dressed person. So now you know a little secret. I hope you enjoy it. I'm definitely a fan of the solid coloured tie. I think as and when you get into your tailored clothing, they are so useful for bringing patterns together. So if you're wearing a striped shirt and you want a bit of pattern in your pocket square, or you wanted some more pattern into your suit, the tie becomes less of a focal point, but just ties it all together, if you'll pardon the expression. Beautifully tied with a dimple. It's just a simple way of bringing the outfits together without distracting. However, I would always suggest when you're picking your plain ties and the classic colours, the navies, the greys, the wines, maybe bottle green, is considering texture. If you compare it to this tie here in a dark blue but in a shantung silk, I just feel that this has virtually the same versatility, but just has that bit more interest to it. I love the way the texture of the silk reflects the light. It makes the dimple really far more interesting, and it just adds another element, but it still means you can still put patterns. So if you had a really bold striped shirt, for example, this tie would also look really good. So again, if you're building your you're getting your classic plain colours, consider the textures. I love shantung because it's slightly more unusual, but other materials are things like knitted ties, look quite sporty. Grenadine is also another sort of like PK sort of weave, and by having a combination of textures, it just brings another element of sophistication to your tailored wardrobe. That's not to say the smoother silks don't have their place. I know they're very popular in wedding parties because you can get quite good matches for colours if you need to match your themes, for example. But I think for everyday wear and you're looking to build a tie wardrobe, towards texture. Your tie should slowly come away from the neck. It shouldn't be flat. So the reason I like the 4-in-hand, back to the 4-in-hand, is it's a slightly tighter knot. You put it into the neck and it comes away. So it has that slight arch. By doing that, you're creating 3 dimensions, you're creating shape. You're letting the tie reflect light better, you'll let the dimple be more out there, and with good tailoring, again, you've got shape in the chest, you've got that lovely roundness in the chest, you're creating by being 3-dimensional. You don't want to look flat. If you're ever taking your suit to a cheap dry cleaner, very disappointed in you, you'll notice it'll come back flat. The lapels have got creases in them and it loses that lovely curved shape to it. So by having that, you want it to come away from your neck. Now, a way of doing that, of course, is to tie it. You can sometimes do a little twist in the knot, which makes it slightly more pronounced than sticking it out. Or you can do what I do and wear collar bars. The collar bar instantly pushes your tie away from your neck. It creates shape and creates 3 dimensions, and it creates visual interest. So the length of your tie is important. I find that modern ties are cut quite long. When I first got into the menswear industry over 30 years ago, the typical tie was, I'm going to say in inches now because that's how old I am, 52 to 53 inches. Now 56, 58 is standard. So ties are longer. I guess it's because nowadays people are bigger, taller, bigger necks, you need more silk. For somebody with my build, I find ties too long. I like my tie to finish around the waistband, but I don't obsess over it. I'd much rather have a good knot with a nice dimple moving out from the neck. And if I did a great knot and it was slightly too long or slightly too short, I'd live with it. Now it does give you an issue of what do I do with the longer second half of the narrow end of the tie, which invariably ends up too long. Now I have seen some people purposefully leave it undone and let it hang down and think they're being really cool because, hey, there's a photograph of Edward VIII 90 years ago wearing it and they want to look like that. To me, it's too affected. I don't bother with that. I tend to slip it into the trousers and just deal with it. So don't obsess over it. Is it worth investing in handmade ties? Well, everything else being equal, I would say yes. Although some machine-made ties can be better than others. So it's not just a case of handmade versus machine made. Handmade ties just have more shape to them. In particular, the edge of the blade is rounded. If you ever see a cheaper machine made tie, even if it's in a good quality, reasonably good quality silk, they tend to be flat. You don't get that lovely rounded edge, which to me is a bit like on a better made suit. It's been hand pressed, you get a soft roll lapel. So if you're wearing better made clothing, handmade ties will complement them better. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting, informative, and will inspire you to try something different perhaps next time you wear a tie. As always, put your comments below and don't forget to subscribe.